Hello and welcome to Original Soundchat, where video game music is a work of art. On each episode, it's our goal to help you learn about two soundtracks from the world of games, as well as the people, stories, and critical tracks behind them. My name is DeVader, and we're brought to you by Anonymous Dinosaur and Rhymes with Asia. It's time to appreciate great OSTs and the games they come from without getting bogged down in music theory. This week is a solo episode with just me, and we're going to be talking about 2022's Ghost Song, the atmospheric adventure to help a group of stranded people fix their spaceship and get off a planet, featuring a mysterious protagonist in something called the Deadsuit. Yeah, we're talking about Ghost Song. Peter had some car troubles on recording day, and as somebody that had car troubles as well very recently, that kind of takes up your day. So it's a solo episode, and I'm excited to talk about this game. I've been interested in talking about it ever since I made it an honorable mention at the Best of 2022 episode. But before that, what have I been playing? Well, I finally sat down and I played 7th Lair. I mentioned a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, in the Composer Follow-Up News that a spin-off visual novel of The House in Fata Morgana had been translated and released. And it's very weird because it is a completely unrelated story featuring characters named the same thing and using the same assets, but it's a completely unrelated story and the characters are completely different people. And it's about an indie dev who gets essentially teleported into his game world alongside some of his fans, and it gets really, really, really heavy. Really heavy. It was very good. It needed some more editing passes on the translation. There were a lot of typos, but overall, yeah, I think it was good. I don't think it was as good as the actual Fata Morgana, but that's a really high bar. But it's good to know that Fata Morgana itself is not a fluke, and I can still look forward to their next game whenever it comes out after the heat death of the universe, I assume. Alright, let's talk about Ghost Song. Ghost Song was originally released on November 3rd, 2022 for PC, Switch, PS4 and 5, as well as the Xbox One and Series X and S. It was developed by Old Moon and published by Humble Games. Ghost Song is a Metroidvania that is very, very heavily inspired by the Metroid side of that equation. The protagonist has an arm cannon and everything. If you have forgotten what a Metroidvania is, or this is one of your first episodes and you just don't know, a Metroidvania is, in this case, a 2D platformer where the player can explore a large map that becomes more accessible as they acquire new abilities and power-ups. In Ghost Song, the player takes the role of what seems to be a young woman as she awakens in what is later revealed to be called a Deadsuit. She has no memories of who she is or how she arrived on this planet, but as she explores, she finds that it has been long since abandoned and retaken by nature. And as she explores, she finds a group of humans, couriers whose ship has crash-landed on the planet due to a strange disruption field being projected around it. The Deadsuit decides to help them repair their ship in the hopes of helping them go home, and they begin to refer to her as Blue, due to the color of her suit. And Blue's abilities are pretty standard. I mean, she can jump, she can shoot energy blasts from her arm cannon, she's got a melee attack, which is different from Metroid for the most part. And the most interesting thing about the game, in my opinion, the most interesting thing about combat at the very least, is that in Ghost Song, your gun can actually overheat. It overheats rather quickly, too, and the hotter your gun gets, the weaker the shots are, until you're basically shooting peas at one point. But here's the thing. You do your melee attack with your cannon arm, and if your cannon arm is red hot, well, now your melee attack is temporarily much stronger. So there's kind of a risk-reward sort of thing there. It's a trade-off, and I find that very, very interesting. I think it's a very unique mechanic, and that's the main thing that kind of made me really want to give this game a shot when I played the demo for it about a year ago. So the questions become, what happened to this planet to put it into this state? What is the origin of the disruption field that seems to be causing any ships near it to crash? Can Blue help her new friends repair their ship and escape? And what is Blue? Human, robot, or something else? And this is where I would normally ask Peter what his experiences with Ghost Song are. I know the answer. He has not played it, because it's another one of those indie games that I'm bringing that I'm one of like 3 people that has played. But what are my experiences with Ghost Song? Well, I'm glad you asked. I played it on Switch. I played the PC demo first in a Steam Fest a long while ago. Like I said, I think it was like a year ago. That sounds about right. But I played the actual game on Switch, and I loved it. I think this game has a fantastic use of atmosphere. I think Blue is just a very easy protagonist to empathize with because she's just as confused as you are. And her interactions with the crew of the crashed ship they're just really sweet and nice. Even though everybody should kind of be super sad and scared, they're all trying to keep their chin up. There's a teenager on that ship, and I think she was my favorite person to talk to because she really, really takes to Blue. And at one point, a conversation that I really remember is she's like, well, when I get off this planet, you know what? I think I'm going to go to school. And she asks, have you ever been to school? And Blue responds, I don't think so, but I think I wanted to, because she sort of has these vague feelings that point to memories, but she doesn't actually remember anything. The kid responds with, then you should come with me, because if you want to go to school, you should go to school. And something about that conversation and the way that it plays out and the way that it works with the ending of the game works incredibly well. If you like good atmosphere and you generally like Metroidvanias, Ghost Song is probably one to check out. There are a couple problems with it, which we will get to in a bit, but I personally think it is very good. Not a lot of information on the development, though. It was an early Kickstarter funding success, though. It ran a successful campaign in 2013, and during development, it changed engines twice. Started development as a Flash-based game, then it moved to the Stencil engine, and finally the game that actually came out was built in Unity. And heavily inspired by Super Metroid, that much is clear, very clear, but also kind of inspired by Dark Souls, because there is a corpse run mechanic. For people that don't know what that means, it means you lose your currency when you die, and if you want it back, you have to go pick it up, go back to where you died and pick it up. And I'm iffy on that. Every single Metroidvania I have played in a very long time pretty much has featured a corpse run, and at this point, I'm getting a little sick of the mechanic personally. That's one of my few complaints about this game is just take me to the save point. Just take me to the last place I saved. Okay, fine, I died, whatever, it's fine. I'm just a little bit sick of corpse runs. I think they're a bit too common now. The team did consider a Wii U port of the game, even though I guess the Wii U and OpenFL, which was, I think, when I was looking into it, what I could find was like it's a graphical engine? Something to do with Flash, I think. But infamously, the Wii U and it don't get along at all. And they were apparently, according to some interviews at the time, quote, prepared to move heaven and earth to get it working on the Wii U. And I assume the reason it didn't release on the Wii U is A, the effort wasn't seen as worth it, and B, this game came out in 2022. The Wii U had been dead for 5 years. Ghost Song reviewed generally well upon release, sits at a 79 on Metacritic, Praise was given to the game's atmosphere and world design, while there was a lot of criticism for having issues with leading the player, as well as some distaste with the game's corpse run mechanic. The leading the player thing was a common criticism that I saw, and I think I agree. It's sometimes a little bit hard to figure out where the game expects you to go. In fact, at the end of the game, I had to go to a very specific place, and it just said, "Yeah, you know where that is." And I didn't. I did. It was a place I'd been to, but the description they gave me did not lead me there. But I did eventually find it, at the very least. But yeah, that is a bit of a problem with it. Though critics did say that the systems were overall solid, but the game doesn't really do anything super new with the genre, which I think is fine. Not every game needs to be a revolutionary piece of software that changes the direction the industry is going in and all that. I don't know. It just doesn't, I don't think. The composer behind Ghost Song goes by the name of Grant Graham. And according to his website, didn't find a lot on him, but I did find his website and some of his social media. He is self-described as a multi-instrumentalist composer and sound designer, and he currently works out of Scotland in his home studio. He has been active, according to his website, since the mid-2000s. You can see that website at grant-graham.com, and you can follow him on Twitter at Grant_Graham_. And in terms of discography, Ghost Song is the only thing his website mentions, and it seems to be his only foray into games, at the very least. So, there's that. As for some historical development research on the score itself, Graham describes it as being, quote, composed of spacey electric guitars, vintage synth pads, and warm felt piano, blended with organic field recordings, broken test equipment, and atmospheric ambient drones. And you can actually go buy this soundtrack, if you like what you hear today, on his Bandcamp page at grant-graham.bandcamp.com. So let's get into those 5 critical tracks, shall we? I will warn you, some of these I don't know where they play. I don't remember. It's been a very long time since I played Ghost Song. It came out last year, and it's been a little while. But let's talk about these tracks. Critical track number 1, main theme of the game, seems like a good place to start. It's Ghost Song. So this is the title screen music for the game. It is very indicative of what most of the soundtrack sounds like. In a way, it's kind of similar in tone overall to Ender Lilies, which we talked about a couple weeks ago. But while Ender Lilies has like this air of hopelessness and sadness that everything is dead, Ghost Song sort of has a bit more optimism to it. It's sad and somber, but it's not hopeless, I don't think, personally. And I think this song is a very, very good example of that. It reflects Blue being, honestly, pretty optimistic, all things considered. She's kind of optimistic. She's a little bit innocent. She really would rather not fight if she can help it, but that doesn't mean she won't. And she's just a really good protagonist. And I think this song very deftly brings the tone front and center and really, really shows off what it's supposed to be. Critical track number 2. This is Big Bot. So the upgrade points in Ghost Song, and also the fast travel points, are these large robots that are broken down, and you can find like 4 or 5 of them along the map, maybe more. And they've obviously been out of service for a long time. And this is the music that plays when you find them. There are a couple versions of this song on the soundtrack, but I think the first one is the one that hits me the hardest. I think the most interesting thing about them is the fact that Blue kind of interacts with them in a way. Like outside of gameplay, she'll speak to them when she walks up to them. She refers to them as statues, and whether or not that means that she does not understand that they are dead robots, or that she's just kind of trying not to think about it. It really depends on your interpretation, but this song kind of really does a good job at bringing across this feeling of peace while you're in this area, but also just the fact that you are essentially using something's mechanical corpse to fast travel and to upgrade yourself as you go. It's a really good portrayal of that, and it's another song that I think really nails sort of the somber but not hopeless atmosphere of Ghost Song. And it's a song you're going to hear quite often because you find these robots and they're where you upgrade. They're how you fast travel. Like I said, they're important and you're going to see them a lot. So I think this song was an important one to highlight. Moving on to critical track number 3. This is actually probably one of my favorite songs on the soundtrack. This is Flowers. So I think I know where this song plays, but I don't know for sure. If it plays where I think it plays, then it's also one of my favorite, like, small moments in the game. Where you walk into this area where there are just a bunch of plants and these really beautiful flowers growing, and Blue, like, exclaims, like, oh, she's captivated by these things that she's walking by. And the reason I like this song so much is that it still kind of keeps the quiet, somber atmosphere that Ghost Song is going for pretty much all the way through. But also, I think this song does the best job at sort of reflecting the personality trait of Blue, which is her curiosity. Because she is rather curious. She wants to know things, not just about herself, but about the planet she is on and about the things that are on it. And that really comes across in her as a character, but I think in this song, you could hear a feeling like that. Just this nice soundscape of, like, synth, and it's just a nice song. And I think it really, really fits Blue very well. Critical track number 4, though, complete change in tone. This is The Construct. So Construct is a being that you hear about quite often throughout the game. You run into somebody that claims to be his brother many times, and he'll tell you the story of how they ended up on the planet and supposedly how the planet ended up in the way it did. But Construct is essentially the final quote-unquote encounter in the game, because he's the one that controls the disruption field, and he is the one that can turn it off and let Blue's friends leave. This song really, really, really brings across the sort of stakes of, no, I have to get him to turn this off. They will die. Please turn it off. I cannot let them die. And it's a higher energy than a lot of other stuff. There's a couple other boss themes and stuff that are like this too, but this is, I think, my favorite example of this type of song on the soundtrack. And also just the sequence is so good. And Construct himself is so kind of frightening in a way. But yeah, I think this is one of the sequences I remember the most from Ghost Song, and I think it is actually kind of worthwhile to get to the end, just to experience that. I think it's a really cool way to sort of end the story. And again, I think this song sort of reflects some determination and some stakes of she has to get him to turn it off. And it comes across really well. And critical track number 5, our final critical track of the week. This is Into Rust. This song plays pretty much right after the encounter with Construct. It's the end of the game. The ending of the game. This isn't the credit roll, but it's the ending scene. And I imagine some people might find the ending to be a little bit unsatisfying. But for me, I think it is perfect for what the game is, and I think it's perfect for what Blue's story is. And I think this song really reflects just this sense of found peace and this ability to finally rest. Your job is done. The ship can get off the planet and people get to continue on living. And I think the part that gets me the most in this song, just remembering that scene, is there's a part where all the instrumentation drops out and it's just the guitar plucking 3 notes, essentially. And something about that just, I don't know, it hits me like a train. It is really, really good emotionally. And again, just this sense of peace in this song fits so perfectly. And I don't know, it's a good song. And I really, really like it. And I really like the ending scene that it plays in. Tracks on the cutting room floor, I of course have 2. I always have 2. You know me. The first one is Crash Site. The thing about these two is it's very obvious where they play just from the title. This plays when you go up to where the ship crashed and you can talk to all your friends and get all that story sort of out of the way. I really like it. It has sort of this downer feel to it, but I mean, you'd also have a downer feel to you if you crash landed on a planet you did not know and could not leave. So, I guess it fits. It kind of fits, I think, a camp and a site where it feels like morale is not exactly at its highest point. I don't feel like this really nails the tone as much as I think the ones that I highlighted in the Critical 5 do, but it is a very important location in the game, and I think it's very important to at least show it off. And the other track on the cutting room floor is the main theme of apparently one of the more popular areas in the game. I didn't find it that special, but whatever. This is Junk Pit. I don't personally have a ton to say about this one. I like it. It's very good. And like I said, the Junk Pit is apparently one of the most popular areas in the game, I guess. I don't know. But I don't remember much about it. This song is very good, though. I think it kind of fits a place where trash goes, and sort of the feeling you would have if you found yourself in the place where trash goes. I don't know how else to put it. It has sort of this frightened energy to it, but also, it keeps that somber atmosphere, and the fact that you're surrounded by scrap when you might be a robot yourself, you don't know. It's an interesting sort of tone that the song throws at you. So what'll I never forget about Ghost Song is the atmosphere. It's Blue. I think Blue is one of my favorite Metroidvania protagonists now. I mostly played the game for her. She's really, really good. And her interactions with the world around her just sort of make the game for me. It's not the best Metroidvania I've ever played, but it's pretty good. And honestly, if you enjoy Metroidvanias, I'd say Ghost Song is one that you should go ahead and give a shot. Just know that it does have a couple of problems, but I am sure you'll be able to get through those. If I could beat it, you can beat it. And that'll do it for this week on Original Soundchat. You can find me on Twitter at StringPixel, and you can find Peter at PeteSpeakEasy. Find the video version of this podcast on the Rhymes with Asia YouTube channel. But if you're looking for the audio version, you can find that at anondino.squarespace.com. But you can also find it on basically every podcatcher you can imagine, hopefully, as long as we imagined it. That includes Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and even Spotify. And on Spotify, we have something extra too. We happen to have a playlist where if we have talked about a song on this show and it is on Spotify, then it goes onto this massive playlist that I believe is almost to 100 hours long, which is very long, I think. So what'll be added this week? Ghost Song. Ghost Song is on Spotify. It is very good, so those songs will end up on the playlist. And then, when you're done listening to the show, you can let us know what you think on Twitter at SoundchatOST. You can give us feedback, suggestions. Tell us a game that you want to hear us talk about. There are a couple of listener suggestions that I'm personally planning to do in the next couple weeks. Games I've never played or looked into, so that's always interesting. And you could suggest that game as well. So, next week, hopefully it'll be both of us here, so long as the curse that tends to happen where we do a solo episode and then the other person has something happen the next week, and that won't happen. We'll both be here, hopefully, next week. I shouldn't say that. I'm going to curse it. I will be talking about Makoto Tomozawa, and Peter will be talking about Michiru Oshima. So, yeah, looking forward to that. Lines up with a notable release of the year. One of the first really, really big releases of the year, I think. So that's really cool. And, yeah. So usually to play us out, we would throw in a fan cover, fan remix, something of that type. Couldn't really find anything for Ghost Song, mostly because if you search Ghost Song Remix, or Ghost Song Cover, or Ghost Song Video Game Remix, or Ghost Song Video Game Cover, you just get Justin Bieber and a bunch of other stuff. Turns out, Ghost Song is not an uncommon name for things. Oh well. So I'm just gonna go the easy route, and I'm going to play us out with the credits music of Ghost Song. It is called Mist. It is, again, a very nice feeling piece. We will see you next week. Thank you for listening here on Original Soundchat. Take care.